Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of Connect, Share, Prosper. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, here with your host, Chaz Wilson. Chaz, we're backstage today. This is like backstage pass.
Love it. Love the backstage.
This is like a concert where you get to talk to the musician before and after the concert. Like sometimes you guys listening to this, you got to know, like, we'll show up and Chaz will have a couple talking points and we'll just kind of go, right? But today I was like, I kind of want to ask you questions, and Chaz is like, let's do that. So
yeah,
this is backstage.
I'm ready. I've never been backstage, so it's cool.
Okay, so you're backstage for your own event. That's perfect.
Yeah.
For your own interview. Well, the first question that we're gonna break these questions into multiple episodes, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay, good. But the first one, and this is, each one deserves its own episode. So here's the first question. Like, I've known you since, I interviewed you probably last fall, maybe last winter for my podcast. And then came down to Success School for that in Granite Park last spring. So I've been able to see you, like, you always have a million things going. Like, I just dizzying for me. I'm like, I don't know how he does it. Like, I'm trying to keep a couple things spinning.
Yeah.
And you're spinning like 5,000 things. And I'm sure people that know you know this about you too.
Right.
So my question for you is, like, how do you sustain such a fast pace? I think my comment to you before we hit record was like, you must just breathe deeply all the time.
Yeah. What's interesting is you see me doing all these things. Some would say, maybe close to me would say not very well, some of the things, right? So it is very fast paced. And I don't know if that just is more like you get accustomed to that kind of fast pace. And yet at the same time, I'm still very disciplined with my timing. Like, for instance, my routine is my routine, and I don't know what it is. I just feel a sense of purpose that drives me, that I hate wasting time. Like, if someone really wanted to get under my skin, it would be to waste my time, like to just make me feel like I waste time. There's every once in a while, I'll get asked to sit on a meeting or a board or something like that, and I accept, and then there's no agenda, and there's like, people's side conversations, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't sit here. I got things to do.
Right. So
I really think, Chris, it's just a strong sense of purpose that drives.
I want to dig into that a little bit, because you are look, I don't want this in the most kind and loving way possible. Though you're very stoic. You're very like, you show up and you're very task oriented, business oriented about things. You're kind and approachable. But I'm like, does it ever bother you? Like, you just never show frustration. Like, are you ever brought to like the brink of are you ready to jump off the ledge or not?
Oh, well, first of all, I appreciate that. And I understand that about myself. Like, I know sometimes people who've worked here for a while who maybe knew me, like they were members of Master Networks, and then they became, an employee, and they just, man, I really want to work with you in this organization. And then they're around me a little bit more, and they're like, man, like, that's a side of you I don't always see. And I think there's some of that, like, but I just share with you a couple of things on this. So yes, I do get frustrated. Yes, I have the gamut of emotions like most entrepreneurs. I think though, over the years, I've been able to get a little bit better at how to deal with it. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's just an awareness too, like a sense of gratitude for where I'm at. Like, I've been at the very bottom, and I just don't forget those things. So I understand it could always be worse. So as bad as it feels today, I feel like, well, it could always be worse.
Right.
And so I try not to let that get to me. But the truth of the matter is, listen, in 7.5 years, at least since we started Master Networks, there's probably been maybe 3 days where like, it's been so overwhelming that nearly, or has brought me to tears, kind of thing. Like, like that kind of emotion. But overall, that's not a lot. But there's days it's a heavy burden to carry, but again, it goes back to purpose.
I think whenever you build something that has as many moving parts as it has, look, the reality is most businesses have more moving parts than people think they have when they start the business, right? There's always more under the surface than you actually realize. And then you get in and you're like, what have I done? What did I do starting a business?
Yeah.
But like, what's that saying? First you make the choice, and then the choice makes you. Like, you're just going to now make good about it and keep going, because that's what you signed up for. So here's what I want to know. Like if we looked at like an emotional scale, there were 3 days out of 7 years where it was like brought to tears. I've had those days, probably more than 3 in like 3 years. More than 3 crying sessions in 3 years.
Yeah. Right.
Good for you, 3 and 7. So
I don't know I don't know that matters. I was saying it was 3 days, right?
Yeah, no. Well, yeah. I mean, look, and those listening to this, you can evaluate however many days of tears you've had and however long you've been in business. But my point is, that feels really low. Like on the emotional scale, that feels very low in the pit of it all. So I want to know first, like, when you're in that space, what does Chaz do? Do you just like check out and go to the lake for a day, or like what does Chaz do to like get back to neutral?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. And I notice myself when I start to go that direction, right? It's like, again, I think I have a high sense of awareness when I start to feel myself going that way.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Right. So before I get there, and I think that's the lesson I'm learning each year that I'm in business is how do I become aware before I get there?
Yeah, it's gold, man. That's so good.
And the thing that I do is, listen, I've been in a place, I've talked about this in my books, where I had $27 in my account. I talk about how, getting a knock at the door because I couldn't afford my house payment, and someone saying, look, if you don't make these payments,
right,
you could lose your house. And those are low days. Like those are just low days.
Yep.
In every one of those situations where I've been at the bottom, and so maybe somebody listening to this is in a place where their business isn't going well, their relationships aren't going well. At any stage, whether it be personal or professional, where I've been at that place, the thing that helps me get up is just merely having a plan. I don't even have to be executing the plan, but if I feel like, okay, I'm stuck, like think about it anyway, like you're lost. That's how you feel. You're lost. If you were lost in the mountains, in the woods somewhere, you're going to go, I need a plan.
Yep.
And you're going to start working towards that plan. And when that plan makes a lot of sense to me, I get certain about that plan and I move in that direction. And honestly, getting into activity that way changes my state of being pretty quickly.
So good. Dude, that is so good. So I know I've had many days, and I think I haven't managed it as well, but I have had many days where it feels very confusing. And I've probably consumed so many ideas that my plan feels all over the place. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
right.
Oh, I've got a plan for the business, and I've got a plan for my marketing. I got a plan for hiring, and I got a plan to write a book, and I got pretty soon, like I've got 50 plans, and now I'm confused. It's like trying to climb the mountain and you have 50 routes and you're like, wait, which am I supposed to go left or right? I don't know. Right. But it sounds like you've been able to kind of go, cause you have like, a lot of things working. So it sounds like you just kind of, do you reduce it down to like what's going to get me to the next mile marker and then turn that into a plan or what?
Yeah. And the interesting part about it is in almost every one of those cases, it's not been what, but who. There's obviously a who missing that would have helped me not get in this place. And that's also more advanced for me now, is start to go, if I'd had somebody looking over this, or if I'd had somebody doing this and I quit trying to do it all, then perhaps I wouldn't be where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
So I start to look for who as part of that plan. So I might map it out. I mean, that's why I joke, everyone around me is like, as long as he's got a whiteboard, he's good. Like,
yeah.
It's like some people need a coffee, some people need a gallon of ice cream, whatever it is to help them feel better. As long as I have a whiteboard, I feel better because I can map out what I need to fix.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Right. And then if I map it out and I bring people who are close to me and say, look, this is where I think we've been stuck. This is how I think we change it. Who do we need to bring into this? I don't know what it is, Chris, but for me, I feel like, okay, I can solve anything and just have that mindset that I can fix anything if I have a plan. And when I don't have a plan, then I'm confused and then I'm frustrated. And
that's so good. I was going to ask a follow-up question, but I think it might be the same answer, but you just tell me if it is or it isn't. So at the lowest point where I have a day where I'm brought to tears, the answer could, or at least for you, is still like, if I can find a plan, if I can map out a plan, I know my way out of where I am right now, and I can focus my energies, my attention there, so I get productive about it. If you go up the emotional scale where it's like, it's not one of the 3 days out of 7 years, it's more of like a weekly or a monthly, like, oh, I'm so frustrated right now. Things aren't going the way I want them to go. Cause you must have those days.
Of course.
Okay. Weekly, monthly. Well, is it the same thing? You just create a plan, or do you have other things, strategies you do to kind of get productive and move forward?
You know, it's interesting. I think back a couple of years ago when I had one of those days. I'm going to give you two parts to this, right? So I think back a couple of years ago when I had one of those days, I came in the house. It was very early on in Master Networks history. I mean, we probably had 12 or 13 days where we had, like, literally we had no money in the bank account. We're trying to start this thing. We're trying to grow it. And we got a payroll, albeit small at that stage. It was huge to us. It was a mountain of a payroll to make.
Yeah.
Especially when you have no money. And it's just feeling beat up. Like, I just like, oh, this isn't working. I'm confused, all that. And I remember walking in to my house and my wife was there and she kind of smiled, like she could just tell my face, like just, because although you say stoic, I wear my emotion, like, and often is very level. I try to keep it that way, but
yeah.
So she's like, rough day. I'm like, oh my gosh, one of the worst. And I remember it vividly. I walk across the room. She's sitting on the couch and she stands up, walks over and gives me a hug. And I'm like, oh man, I just needed that. Like somebody's here. Right. However, for those of you that know this story and know the title to this book, and if you're listening, it says Now Make Good, the book I wrote. She gave me a hug, embraced me, leaned into my ear, and she said, "You hired up for a tough guy, now make good."
Nice. Thanks a lot. Like, was that good? Was that good or was that bad?
I was like, you don't get to use my stuff on me. Right?
I know, right?
Right? So, but that phrase has always helped me in those moments, and they do come daily, not just weekly and monthly. They come daily. Like the truth of the matter is.
Okay, good. That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah. Here's what I'd actually say to somebody who's thinking that. I used to think that, like, and what you said, like, wow, you've only had 3 of those days, but the reality is because I'm actually having 30 of those throughout the day.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm pivoting. It's like the airline that just changes every so often, gets back on course. Yeah. I'm having those so often that I'm looking for them and I'm pivoting in quick, so that I don't get to a place as often as I did before where they're just overwhelming.
If you're looking for them, like what are the, because if you're looking for them and you're getting good at pivoting, then you're also, I'm guessing, getting good at seeing the warning signs or seeing something coming. So it's not always a reaction. You can now actually like see it coming. So how do you notice? How do you see it coming?
So a couple of things for me are I'm easily frustrated by things, right? Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, me too.
Kind of step back and you go, why am I really frustrated about that? Or getting frustrated with people, right? And things like, oh, they let me down here, they let me down there. It's like, okay, that's not the issue.
Yeah.
Right. And so for me, those are the signs I start to look at. And what I really come down to is having a plan and then getting to activity. I said this the other day to somebody in a coaching mentoring session. I said, at the end of a day, like when you walk in the door, back to your home, whatever, do you feel fulfilled? And he said, yeah, like maybe 1 out of 10 days.
Yeah.
I said, okay, great. Let's stop for a second. Out of the 1 out of 10 days, the day you go home and you feel fulfilled, describe that day to me. And what we broke down to after all these questions I got down to is the days that he has made lead generation calls, the days he's made a sale, he goes home. It doesn't matter how busy he felt the other days. He felt productive. And so he went home feeling fulfilled. And I said, well, then we have to get rid of everything else so that you're feeling productive every day and you feel fulfilled. That was for him. And so now, as I said that advice, I hung up the phone. I'm like, okay, now I got to think about that for myself. Every single day, what are the things, the activities that I feel fulfilled and I get the most excited and I get that energy back.
Yeah.
And when I feel the frustration and I feel the, people irritants and those kind of things that come into my life, I look at it and go, I haven't been productive. I've been busy. Oh. And if I actually stop and get productive, those things just go away.
Wow. I can see my mind's going to different places because one of the first thoughts is like, it would be easy in that moment. I think people could, so the first thing is I think people could feel when they're getting frustrated. You'd be like, okay, I just got frustrated. And if you didn't notice it, that frustration could take you all the way down the pit into all sorts of dark places where now it's a lot more work to get back to neutral. But if you can notice the frustration quickly, like, okay, I'm frustrated. What's that about? That's clearly not about the situation. There's something over here. And then change quickly, like create a plan and then get into action. Like if you can micro adjust faster, you'd get out of that.
And listen, I mean, I don't always stop it either. Like oh man, I'm 8 rungs down, 10 rungs down. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I know. I so know. Just laughing from familiarity. But I can see people going, okay, I noticed that I was frustrated. The places that I feel most productive are, I'll give you mine. I feel like every day I get to teach or I get to coach. I love it. Like those days are incredible. Love those days. Or days where people interview me. So then I go, because it's me trying to share out what I feel like life has taught me. So those days always feel good. Most of my days are actually spent in trenches of details and systems and trying to build the guts of the business to live, you know, past my next effort to be sustainable and scalable, right? So I hear that and I go, well, I mean, that's good, but the systems still have to get done. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I can't spend all day teaching, coaching, and getting interviewed.
Why not?
Right. That's my point. So, okay, it's my point, but then my follow-up question is like, well, then what do I like? Well, then what do I do?
Right. So that's what I was saying when I look at it, where I get stuck and where I get frustrated. Once I create the plan, what I would say 80-90% of the time, I realize it's the who. Like, again, it's the who could be doing the details.
Yep.
And then the question then we start, right? Then we head back to Pat's because we stop and we go, well, I can't afford that person.
Right. Yes, that's right. That's right. You anticipated my next move. Right. Because then it goes to, and that's more, and now we're getting into limiting beliefs or stories we're telling, but I'm like, well, gosh, that's going to, I need an assistant, but that's going to cost money. I don't have money for that right now. I'm barely trying to get it done. Like, how do I, so, and now.
Let me just share a secret though.
Yeah. Good.
Because I have 14 employees and I have 75 1099s across the country, right? So I've done a lot of hiring. Mm-hmm. I have almost never been to a place where I had the money before I hired them. Almost never. Still to this day, like every time I don't have enough set aside for payroll. I'm always setting aside and trying to gain on that.
Yeah.
It's like I almost never have enough. I'm always investing in people ahead of where I need them.
Right. Which would explain why you were able to grow. Because if you have people there to help it grow, it's not dependent on you. It's you've got the resources and the bandwidth from your team to make that happen. Mm-hmm. How do you, the logical question is, how do you do that? Like if you don't have it to the payroll to add, how do you add somebody? You take a loan? Do you get really creative in your negotiations for what your compensation plan is?
All of it.
Okay.
I mean, everybody's in a different spot, so they have to figure that out. Yes, I'm always, and one of the shifts I made too is I look at each individual position and hire as to how can they bring in revenue. I mean, that's kind of really a separate topic we could really spend time on. However, that's what gives me motivation. That's what gives me fulfilled. And the other side of this too, Chris, is at the bottom, when I'm feeling at the bottom, I also have to be in awareness of reminding myself that there are 14 people here with families, hundreds and thousands of members across the country, master networks. And so honestly, sometimes that burden is what overwhelms me. Like I'm leading an organization of this size, and there's a lot of people counting on us to do it right. And so I can have my pity party for the day, but then tomorrow I've got to make good on it.
Yeah. I could keep going down this road because I think this is, first of all, but I think this is good. I feel like there's been some amazing gems in this conversation. What I want to sum up with is that this is just the life you signed on for as an entrepreneur. Like as you're a business owner,
right?
The whole thing about that is you're going to be stretched and to expand. You're going to be stretched as a human being, and that's just part of the job description. So I love that you're talking about looking for the patterns, like look for what throws you off, notice it sooner, create a plan, get into action around the plan in order to get your energy out of the doom loop of it all and move yourself into the constructive space of it all.
Yeah, because let me just wrap with this. And I've shared this story before of certainty, because when I create a plan, see, when I'm feeling low and I'm feeling confused, I feel like I have uncertainty.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And when I have certainty, I move towards something. And that's why I say when I map it out. So I tell this story all the time about a young father who's down in the canyons of southern Utah, driving his son late night or getting dusk, and they decide to head back. And as they're coming back, they hit a fork in the road. It's a true story. And the fork in the road, they go, we don't remember a fork in the road when we're going out, which is actually true, because when you're going, you see these little offshoots. You don't remember them. They look different when you're coming back. So he says, Dad, which way are we supposed to go? And he goes, I don't know. I actually don't know. And he said, his little boy, and he says, Dad, do you care if I pray and ask God to help us? He said, sure. Like at this point, I need all the help I can get. Let's figure out where we're supposed to go. So the boy prays and he says, Dad, we're supposed to go to the right. And he said, I was feeling we need to go to the right. So they drive down they pick the right, and they go down, and they about half mile, they hit a dead end. And they turn around and they come back. As they're driving back to that fork, the son says, "Dad, why do you think God told us that we needed to go to the right when it was the wrong way?" And he said, "Son, the only thing I can think of is that now we're certain that's the wrong way to go."
Wow.
And now we wouldn't keep driving going, "Are we on the right path? Are we on the right path? Are we on the right path?" No, we certainly know that is not the right path. And we found that out quick, that wasn't the right path. And so sometimes I think in life, when we get stuck and we feel that way and we go, why was that wrong? I felt like that was right. Well, now you're certain that is not the right path.
Yeah.
And now you can be certain about the other direction you're going. So don't look at those things as a challenge. Look at them as an opportunity to be certain about where you're going.
So good. I think certainty might be my word for the year, because it's the thing I've wanted the most, right? In the middle of all the ideas and all the strategies and all the things demanding my attention, certainty is it. That's when I feel certain, I'm willing to bet the farm on whatever it takes to go where I want to go.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So good. Chaz, if people want to coach with you, if people want to learn more about Chaz Wilson and how do I get Chaz to mentor me or coach me, like where can people go to connect with you to help them?
Well, you can always hit me up on social media directly. I answer all my direct messages, all those direct. And you can also go to chazwilson.com, CHASWILSON, chazwilson.com. I've got group coaching, mentoring, all that stuff on there.
So good.
Be happy to.
I love it. I love it. I love what you're building, and I love how you're building it, because you're composed as much as we have just talked about how it can be a crazy time. You do it with some finesse and some mental determination that is remarkable. So thanks for sharing your wisdom today.
All right. Thanks, man.